Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, in Austin, Texas, there have been a series of bombings that have taken place there. Um, you have a situation where packages are being left on people's front doorsteps, and when people open those packages or handle those packages have exploded. There have been 3 packages delivered at various residents. And according to the police, these packages weren't delivered through UPS or Federal Express or the Postal Service. They were hand delivered by the suspects and they were delivered overnight. So they are strange packages that these people were not expecting to be delivered. And when the people handled the packages or opened the packages exploded. Now, one of the victims includes Anthony Stephen House, who was a senior manager at Texas Quarries, a supplier of limestone from the state of Texas, as indicated in CNN's article. Another victim was Draylen Mason, a talented student and bass player who was accepted in the selective Butler School of Music at the University of Texas at Austin. And you have, again, a third victim, a Hispanic woman who's 75 years old. She was injured. Now, at this point, the authorities are not ruling out hate crimes as a possibility here. They are also not ruling out terrorism as a potential motivation behind these crimes. Now, according to the authorities, these bombings are all related. These bombs and packages were created by the same individual suspect or group of suspects. As you all know, the authorities probably examined these packages and they saw what kind of materials were used in these packages. They were able to examine how they were constructed, and based on that, they say that there are ties between all of these incidents. Now, I was watching a video on YouTube, an interview with a civil rights activist. He was on Fox News, and he was reporting that according to his information, the third victim, the Hispanic woman, was not the intended target, according to the information that he's received from people that he's talked to in the field while conducting his investigation. So it's his belief that the third victim was supposed to be an African American, according to the information that he has. Now, this situation is something that you have to consider in context. According to FBI reports, there have been an increase in hate crimes in Austin, Texas. According to the reports that I have read, and I will include links in the description box to all my sources for this video, in 2016, there were 19 hate crimes committed compared to 13 in 2015. So there had been an increase, and I don't have the numbers for 2017, but according to a report that I saw on ABC News, there has been an increase in hate crimes in Austin. And also, I was reading a report from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which indicate that Texas has more active hate groups than any other state. I will post a link to that story in the description box as well. So you have a situation where you have these African American men being targeted by this killer, by this criminal. And the thing that's interesting and very disturbing about this story is the fact that both of the African American men have ties to each other. Their relatives, for instance, have close relationships, and they are connected to prominent families in Austin. So you have House, for instance, Mr. House. His stepfather is Dr. Freddie Dixon, a prominent pastor in the community. And one of the other victims, Draylen Mason, is a grandson of Dr. Norman Mason. And Dr. Norman Mason has a close relationship with Pastor Dixon. They both belong to the prominent church in the community, and that church is Wesley United Methodist Church. They both have ties to civil rights in the community. The church that I mentioned before, Wesley United Methodist Church, is a prominent church in the community that does a lot of work. There are a lot of educated people that attend this church that do a lot of philanthropy and who are involved in civil rights activism. For instance, the Austin Area Urban League was founded at that particular church. They organized that particular civil rights organization there at the church. So those two families have ties. The Dixons and the Masons have ties, and the victims have ties. The victim, Anthony Stephen House, and Draylen Mason have ties to one another. So that raises even more suspicions about this being a hate crime, about this being a targeted assassination. And it makes it very clear that it is probably an accident that the Hispanic woman was injured in these attacks. It's highly probable that another African American person was the intended target behind this bombing. Now, this issue has received some coverage, but I don't think that it has received nearly enough. There needs to be more attention drawn to this. And, you know, the things that raise a lot of questions are the ties between the victims, you know, the ties between these bombings that took place, you know, the fact that you have a rise in hate crimes in Austin, Texas, and that Texas is the location for many of the hate groups in this country. And this whole situation reminds me of the situation involving the Unabomber, you know, where this guy, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, was able to bomb people for years before he was actually caught. And so far, there haven't been any leads. No one knows who is responsible for this crime yet. And they have offered an award for any information leading to the capture of this suspect. So this is just another sign of the times. This is a sign of the times of what kind of country we live in. We live in a country where we are seeing a rise in white supremacy. You know, you are seeing the emergence of this so-called alt-right movement, which is nothing but a hate movement, nothing but a white supremacist movement. And this movement, unfortunately, has gained access to power. One of their own was a political strategist for the White House. You know, they are celebrating that they have Donald Trump in the White House because this man pandered to them, catered to them. He spoke their kind of language. His message resonated with those people. So we are seeing the emergence, or, you know, the rise of these hate groups. And it's up to us to fight these hate mongers. And, you know, I hope the people in Austin, Texas, and around the country remain vigilant. You know, given the circumstances of the situation where you have people receiving packages that they didn't expect, we all need to be on the alert. We need to be on the alert for any strange packages. And we always need to be conscious of our surroundings and be aware of what's going on, especially those of us who are involved in activism, those of us who use our voices to speak truth to power, those of us who actually use our bodies to combat racism and white supremacy in this society. We need to be on the alert. We need to be vigilant. We need to be on point. And the fact that they would target these particular individuals who are a part of a prominent church, just again is a reminder of the potential that churches can serve. There was a time when the church was a central and key institution in the black community, where the church was involved in the civil rights movement, where a lot of the organizing that took place in our communities was organized within the church. But now, unfortunately, a lot of these churches are not even about that life. They are about prosperity gospel and, you know, fixated on material things. But we see that when the churches are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the community, those churches are targeted by these white supremacists. We saw what happened to Dylan Roof. You know, what Dylan Roof did when he went into the church and shot those congregants, you know, in that prominent African-American church in Charleston. You know, so our churches need to be on point. They need to step up their security game nowadays. You know, have people on point, not allowing just anybody to off the street to wander in their church without having any kind of security. You know, allowing people to come into the church armed or with packages and all that kind of stuff. So it's time for us to get on point, man, and be right and exact and stuff, man. We can't be caught slipping out here. And we just need to wake up. This should be a wake-up call for all of us. This is another reminder. And again, you know, they don't know who the suspect is, but just by looking at all these circumstances surrounding this, I wouldn't be surprised if this was not another example of domestic terrorism, another example of hate crimes in this country. That's what I think is going on. But tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.